It's the end of the week, so it must be time for another Hot Air Sports podcast. And today it's a very, very special one. It's me good mate Mahona's birthday. Happy birthday, mate. What is it? 40 again?
Yeah, mate, 40 again. Been 40 again for the last decade or so. Yeah, going to go out and celebrate with a service station pie tonight, no doubt. Lockdown birthdays, mate. I've said a lot of things in my life over my many years, but I can say the lockdown birthdays not the best. But there you go.
I tell you what, you could have a 3-course meal. You could have the first course at the dairy, then the second course at the supermarket,
nice,
and then finish off with an ice cream from the trumpet station.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. What a perfect night. What a perfect night.
Lockdown birthday.
Beautiful. At least there's going to be rugby league on the telly tonight, mate. At least it's going to be rugby league.
Quite right. Now, the big issues this week, getting on to the business at hand. The New Zealand Sports Hall of Fame is under threat of shutting down unless a white knight can come up with the necessary funding. Firstly, to keep it in its current spot at Dunedin's railway station, or secondly, to see it moved and more critically updated. Sport New Zealand and the Dunedin City Council have basically washed their hands of it, declining to put any further funding into it, and with its extremely dated displays, needs serious money to make it relevant. This is a sad indictment on sports in New Zealand, isn't it, Aaron?
It's really sad, mate. It's really sad. I mean, considering it's our identity, we punch above our weight, we are a sporting nation. But it just seems like once our sports people are finished with the sports, unless they go into administration or coaching, we just completely forget about them. We don't know what they do. They're just gone, almost consigned to the gold lettering on the board, aren't they? That's basically, what did you do? Oh, just find a name on the honours board. He did that back in 90. That's it. It's just a name on the board. They do it so well.
And if you miss the Halberg Awards ceremony, you don't even know who's been inducted.
Well, I was going to say that, mate. I think the last time I heard about the Hall of Fame was probably back in the early 2000s when they did induct. I mean, if you miss the Halbergs, you don't even know they've been inducted. For a start, I've never been to the Hall of Fame. I don't go to Dunedin very often. I'd love to go. You've been recently. Tell me a little bit about it, mate. What's going on?
I was there about 12 months ago, and the displays they've got there are absolutely magnificent. But unfortunately, there's not really anything from the year 2000 onwards. There's just been no money to put in new displays or anything. So,
so it's last century's achievements.
Yeah. There's no mention of the Rugby World Cup wins in 2011 and 2015. No mention of the Women's Netball World Championship. No mention of Olympics since, the year 2000 in Sydney. And it's just, it's. I actually felt sad, I mean, it cost me all of $2 entry fee. I wanted to give them $200.
Yeah.
To try and help out, but they need more than $200 to help out. More like 200 million.
It's crazy though. I mean, you'd think that a corporate or someone would come along, put their name on it, and their name would be up there for all time. Fisher and Paykel Hall of Fame, an iconic New Zealand company would come along, just pay the money, have their name up there, and be proud to be associated with it. It's kind of crazy that hasn't happened.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the likes of Sir Ian Edgar bequeathed $500,000, before he passed away. Forsyth Bars pledged $200,000. I mean, but the Dunedin City Council has basically drawn a line under it and said, no, that's it. We're not doing any more. Sir Ian Taylor, the graphics maestro, who's brought to life the likes of golf and
the America's Cup.
He's right behind it. He wants his company to become involved and set up, new displays and
brilliant.
And I mean, Naitahu has got behind this All Blacks experience that is at Sky City.
It's doing very well too. Doing very well.
You've obviously been through it a few times.
It is. It's great. It's very popular. It's a great spot to have it. But once again, it's representative. It's got a little bit of the past, but really it's more of an interactive thing for the kids. It's more of a look what the All Blacks have done. And of course, it's all about the All Blacks. They've also got Weta Workshop up there. A great spot for it in the old convention centre because they're building the new one there. So that's a great spot for it if people are coming up to Auckland to go and visit those sorts of things. But I would have thought somewhere like, Te Papa in Wellington would have been perfect because it's in the middle of the country. People not too far for anyone to get to. And of course, Te Papa's our national museum. Surely sports is a part of our national heritage. Why isn't it there?
Well, they don't want to bar over it either. This came up about a year or so ago. Actually, I made a couple of inquiries after I'd been there, and basically I contacted Te Papa and to say, were you involved in or trying to get involved in bringing it up to Wellington? And they said, well, no, we're not doing anything with the Sports Hall of Fame, which is crazy. And I mean,
did they say why?
No.
Just it makes you wonder whether there's politics involved somewhere.
Oh, there has to be somewhere along the line, but it also goes back to the fact of how we treat our former sports people. I'm talking about America again. The Baseball Hall of Fame just had their inductions a couple of weeks ago. Thousands of people turn up to a paddock in Cooperstown, Nowheresville, New York, upstate New York, to see a couple of people inducted into the Hall of Fame. And those three people will forever be referred to as the Hall of Famer Derek Jeter, the Hall of Famer Larry Walker, the Hall of Famer Ted Simmons. Why don't we have the Hall of Famer Michael Jones, the Hall of Famer Tana Umaga, the Hall of Famer Sir John Walker?
Exactly. We just do a piss poor job of honouring our people. Not just in sports, but especially in sports. It just seems like we're keen on hearing about their deeds when they occur. We're keen on jumping alongside them and going, they're ours, being proud. And then once their deeds are done, there's someone else coming through and I'm on the next cab. It's like,
you might hear the odd one on the New Year's or Queen's birthday on, but that's about it.
And unless that person then goes out of their way to stay in the public spotlight, be it via administration or the media or something like that, often they just fade away, don't they? We never ever hear from them at all.
Oh, absolutely. And you look at today's current superstars of sport. Would Kane Williamson and Ross Taylor be held in such high regard without the likes of the groundwork that Sir Richard Hadley and Martin Crowe, and going right back to the beginning of the 1900s, Martin Donnelly, Stewie Dempster,
the Hadleys, Walter,
and likewise in rugby, would the Bowden Barretts and the Richie Moangas be held in such high regard without the likes of the Walker Nathans, the Kel Tremaines,
George
Bruce Robertson?
Exactly. That's exactly right, mate. And then also when someone like Kane Williamson or Ross Taylor finishes and their records are, and they're at the top of the New Zealand tree when it comes to say, this is just an example. Neither of those two guys are very gregarious. I suggest that perhaps when the next generation comes through, they'll probably be forgotten as well. So, we need to remember. I used to go along to Eden Park. The only way, they used to have the odd thing, but really it was just tales told by our parents. When they, my dad used to tell me stories of, Don Clark was his big hero and all that sort of thing. So I learned it from him. And then we watched the old tapes and all that sort of thing. The grainy footage. There should be somewhere we can go and you can take your kids, especially for that next generation, and say, look, this was 50, 60 years ago, but look how great they were, and inspire that next generation. It's nuts to think that we are this big sporting nation, that we hold ourselves so identify with that, and yet we just do nothing for our past. It's just crazy.
There's a brand new sports stadium being built in Christchurch, and it's going to have lots of other stuff around it. Why not build a national sports museum there?
Perfect opportunity. It should just be written in when they're doing the costings. They should they're going to build a new stadium there anyway. Just do it. Just do it. Anyway.
Absolutely.
Let's go to something else, mate. After gymnast Simone Biles' public admissions of mental issues at the Olympics, she's testified before a Senate Judiciary Committee that the FBI let down American gymnasts after turning a blind eye to USA team of gymnastics Dr. Larry Nassar's sexual abuse of her and hundreds of other women. Now, we knew about that, but Biles told the Senate Judiciary Committee that enough is enough, and that she and three other gymnasts spoke in stark emotional terms about their lasting toll Nassar's crimes have taken on their lives, and at least 40 women were subjected to abuse by Nassar after the FBI had been notified of allegations in 2015. Crazy stuff.
After the
40,
FBI had been notified.
40. So an extra 40 victims for Mr. Larry Nassar after the FBI knew what was going on. They knew there were hundreds and hundreds of women involved before that. They did nothing to stop it. Crazy
that
stuff.
FBI agent's been sacked. Either that or sent to Alaska.
Yeah, well, that'll be a help to Simone Biles and all the therapy she has to go through for the rest of her life, won't it?
Just absolutely horrid. I can't even put it into words how this as you say, the effect that it has on these women, not just trying to get to their best to compete at the Olympics or whatever. Just
this is trauma that lasts for the rest of their life, mate.
It is. It's a life sentence for them.
Yep. And to know that the FBI knew about stuff like this and just didn't do anything about it.
Yep.
No wonder that poor girl was still experiencing problems, and she will be for the rest. It's just incredible that she's still doing what she does. Quite frankly, in a sport. I mean, look, she's going to the Olympics, the highest level. She's competing in a sport that she probably loves, but she also, in some ways, probably hates that sport too now because of what the trauma that it's caused her. So every time that she's going out there competing, it's probably bringing some of that back. So
I mean, it's not just the FBI that is to blame here; it's the US Gymnastics.
Oh, absolutely,
national body.
They've been turning a blind eye for years, mate.
That guy Larry Nassar had been a doctor for them for years before this all came to a head, hadn't it?
Yep, and it goes way back to coaching. Even before 2000, when they got those coaches over from Russia and Romania, and they could basically give them carte blanche to do whatever they wanted with young athletes because they were successful. The Americans weren't successful at that stage. They were basically set up camps and basically groomed a bunch of young women to be great gymnasts, but at the same time, just they owe those women a massive apology. It's just awful. Anyway,
apology, I think.
yeah, absolutely. Rest and rotation appears to be the new buzz phrase around the All Blacks camp. I've heard these words before, mate. Didn't go too well last time, but
2007.
Yeah, Steve Hansen learned his lesson, I think.
Graham Henry,
and Graham Henry, and of course, the All Blacks have the team is out now, Macca, for the second clash with the Pumas on Saturday in Brisbane, and there have been some major changes. Interesting one for me, Damien McKenzie at number 10.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one. I mean, as we all know, he is off at the end of this year to play in Japan.
Yeah.
So interesting to see that he's being kept around. I think the interesting thing for me is a whole new forward pack, a brand new 8. Ardie Savea is obviously back from his head injury. And a young couple of flankers, number 8 and blindside flanker, with Hoskins Sotutu finally getting a start this year, along with Ethan Blackadder.
Yeah, good to see Hoskins back. He hasn't had a lot of game time, but I mean, I suppose that's because Ardie needed the game time before, and then he got the head injury. He wasn't on the bench, so it is rotation, I guess. And Luke Jacobson played bloody well last week. I thought all our loose forwards played. Actually, the whole team played pretty well last week, didn't they? They didn't really let the Argentinians in the game at all. They just
started from the first tackle.
They nearly destroyed him, didn't they?
I think Pablo Matera was avoiding Nepo Laulala for the rest of the game.
Fair enough, too, man. That was a big hit, and it set the tone. And the All Blacks just didn't let the Argies play. I think the Argies will be better for the run. I think the All Blacks obviously thought they'd a little bit. Obviously, we lost to them for the first time last year, so I think it was a little bit of revenge on the thing. It'll be interesting to see how our second string forward pack goes. The back line's interesting as well, and see Damien McKenzie running the ship from number 10 will be incredibly interesting. I think he did really well when he came off the bench last week as well.
He did, and it goes back to something that we've said all season, really, is
he's good off the bench.
McKenzie's great off the bench.
Yeah,
he's just such an impact player, and I think that's his best posse. But from the start, inside TJ Perenara, he should get good service from the experienced Hurricanes halfback, and quite an exciting back three too, with Bridge, Barrett, and Jordan. Any back line with Will Jordan in it is going to be exciting.
I love Will Jordan. I love him. He's awesome. But yeah, I thought Sebu Reece played really well last week. I mean, for someone that I've been pretty critical of, I thought he played really well. And TJ Perenara, the whole game, I was like, I'm not a TJ Perenara fan, but to be fair, I thought he played pretty well too. So, he proved me wrong. I just think the All Blacks looked like they're in good form. I mean, that was perhaps the performance of Ian Foster's coaching career so far for the All Blacks, I think.
Quite right. Well, it's not all roses across the Tasman at the moment.
Isn't it?
Trouble is brewing over the Summer's Ashes series, with the likelihood of mass player withdrawals from the English team if the schedule isn't changed, while Aussie broadcasters are saying, nope, you can't change the schedule, mate. It's sticking as it is. The series is due to start in Brisbane on December 8, which is not too far away.
No.
England wants to delay the series to begin with the Boxing Day test in Melbourne. Added to hard border issues with COVID in Australia, there's a lot to be worked through before this series gets underway.
So they're going to start the first test. So the Poms want to start the first test in Melbourne on Boxing Day.
Yep.
So they've got how much? That's a 5-test series, yeah?
Mm.
So they're going to have 4 tests for after that.
Apparently.
Okay, that is a lot to work through. They might only have 2 or 3 days rest between them. I don't know how they're going to fit all that in.
Starting on December 8, you got the test in Brisbane, then a test in Adelaide, and then they go to Boxing Day. I mean, there's only 3 or 4 days in between each of those tests.
Yeah,
that's already pretty cramped.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to fit it all in. To be fair, I just
they're either going to start on time or it's going to be a weak England team.
Absolutely. Well, at the moment, England aren't too strong regardless, are they? I mean, like you said last week, unless Joe Root gets any runs, they don't score any. So I think, what are you thinking of the Ashes anyway? If it does go ahead of it, well, I'd say the Aussies would be odds on, wouldn't you?
Yeah, they would be, but they're not exactly in their best place at the moment either. I mean, there's rumblings around Justin Langer staying on as coach. We've already seen it from the T20 and the ODI team. They want to get rid of him. So there's a bit of player unrest there. And, that often turns into not such great performances on the field. So it could actually be quite an even series.
It could be. It's at home, though. I think the Poms tend to melt, mate. When the weather gets hot and the crowds get out there, the crowds will be back. So, maybe.
Only they won't be in Sydney.
Actually, what am I talking about? Where are they playing these tests? Townsville, Darwin, and honestly, if the crowds are back, I can imagine. I can just see the Poms wilting under the heat and with the abuse. I don't think they've got a show, mate. But
they might just have to play the first test at the Basin Reserve.
Yeah, play the whole series over here. Hey. America's Cup hosting rights is back in the news with Greymouth Petroleum boss Mike Dunphy. He's riding his newfound fame all the way to the bank, isn't he? He's saying that he's got the backing to keep the cup in Auckland and has backtracked on an initial claim that team CEO Grant Dalton would need to step aside, and added to the fact that numerous interested cities are now withdrawing their interest, with Cork and Valencia backing out, leaving just Barcelona and Jeddah in Saudi Arabia left. Suppose there's enough money in Saudi Arabia.
No shortage of money there.
Yeah. What are you making of all this?
Well, it's interesting that, Cork apparently had been the favourite to host. But,
really? It's the America's Cup.
Yeah. To be sure.
Oh, look at these boats sailing around the ocean. Oh, they're going the wrong way. What are you doing? I want to be going that way.
Diddly-diddly-dee potatoes. I found that quite astounding that Cork was the favourite to host it. Valencia, of course, held it when Alingi took it off New Zealand. And leaving, Barcelona, great spot.
Yep, absolutely.
And Jeddah, it would be interesting to see it being held in Saudi Arabia. I wouldn't think anybody in Saudi Arabia's ever heard of the America's Cup before, let alone hosting it.
With a name like the America's Cup, you wouldn't think it would be too popular.
No. I just think maybe Team New Zealand suddenly realised that, the America's Cup isn't actually that popular outside of New Zealand. And I think we're going to see it being held back in New Zealand.
Yeah, I think so too. I can't see any, especially when COVID blows over. Once all this sort of thing blows over, I think they'll probably just come to the thing. Well, actually, if we can get a bunch of people down at the viaducts, last time it went pretty well. I can't. I mean, the event looked spectacular last time, even though we were under COVID restrictions. So, I mean, obviously it's money, but if you want it to look good, no. Yeah. I mean, I think it'd look better than Jeddah. Anyway, could be wrong.
Well, when it, not long after it finished, when they started talking about the fact that it probably wouldn't be held here.
Yeah.
I mean, there was, the south of England was going to hold it. It was going to be held somewhere in the Mediterranean.
Right. Yeah.
Italy were going to hold it. And,
Antarctica, they were going to do it on the moon.
And all sorts of places were going to hold it.
It was going intergalactic, mate. I mean, yeah.
But now we're just down to 2.
Yeah.
Or 3, if you can.
But that was the same with the amount of challenges, wasn't it? Oh, we're going to get 20 challenges. Then it was 10. Then it was 5. Then all of a sudden, we're not even having a challenges. Anyway.
Yeah.
They talk a big game in the America's Cup, don't they?
They certainly do. Well, that's our big issues for the week. Let's talk a bit of footy.
Good stuff.
Champions League football's back, and Anfield was absolutely a rocking last night.
Wasn't it awesome?
Woo-hoo.
Wow.
The Reds hosted AC Milan for the very first time. Only played against each other twice in
both in
competitive
finals.
matches. Both
crazy,
league finals. Just amazing.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best games seen at the ground for quite a while too. A thrilling 3-2 win for Liverpool. And I'll tell you what, I was watching the game in bed yesterday morning, and I damn near jumped out and hit the ceiling when
Jordan Henderson
scored that screamer.
When Steven Gerrard scored, Jordan Henderson scored. Yeah. It was Steven Gerrard-esque, wasn't it?
It was very Steven Gerrard-like. Thought it was just such a great game to watch. I mean, Liverpool absolutely hammered them for the first 25 minutes.
Looked like we were going to win 7-0 or something, and didn't it? And then
two goals out of the box.
Breakout goals. I mean, great goals by them, really. I mean, and to be down 2-1 at halftime, I was like, what the hell? Why? How can we be down? It was just unbelievable. And then I thought, well, Klopp will get them right in the second half. And then about a minute into the second half, I thought we were 3-1 down.
Yeah.
When that corner came in, thank God he was offside. And then Mo Salah bangs in the equaliser. That was a good goal, actually. Quite a good pass by Divock Origi.
It was a great pass from Origi.
He played well, didn't he? Played well.
He did.
Until he went off.
He played well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Until he went off injured. And then, like you say, Jordan Henderson with an absolute screamer from the edge of the box after a corner. Just a great game, and the crowd was up for it. And it just felt like 2018 all over again, didn't it?
Quite right. And well, Man United got off to a good start. Cristiano Ronaldo scored again, and then
he's always had a weakness against little young boys, mate.
Yeah, let's be careful about that.
Okay.
They went down to Swiss side young boys 2-1. It was a great assist from Jesse Lingard for young boys' second goal.
What a through ball!
Pass. That was a great pass. Chelsea and Man City both recorded wins in their first games. Other notable scores. How about this one? Barcelona 0, Bayern Munich 3.
And Bayern Munich were playing in second gear. They weren't even trying. They weren't even trying, mate.
No.
Barcelona are just such a shadow of the side they used to be. I think Koeman's a dead man walking there. Their coach. Barcelona. They're just not what they used to. Just unbelievable. I don't even think they're going to get through the group. But that was a crazy score. Bayern Munich just looked so good. And then PSG drew with Bruges as well.
Yes. I see that Michael Owen reckons that PSG are a worse side with Lionel Messi. It's an interesting comment after just one game. Yeah.
It's like having Ronaldo. If you've got one of those players, they have to be your center point, and you have to, and it's difficult because you have to change the way you play, you know? I mean, I didn't think Messi did much yesterday, but he's that sort of player, man, where you give him the ball, he does what he does, and he's not going to defend. So what are you going to do? You got Lionel Messi. You're not going to complain he's in your side, are you?
Oh, absolutely not. Bad start for Steven Gerrard's side. this morning in
did they lose?
Europa League. They went down at home 2-0 to Lyon.
Shit.
Yeah, so not a great start for them. Leicester had a 2-2 draw with Napoli.
Okay.
And Celtic also went down. They lost 4-3 away to Real Betis. So not such a great start. Oh, West Ham had a good win in Croatia. They beat Dynamo Zagreb 2-0. Good start for them. Michail Antonio on the score sheet again.
Here's this. Why the hell was Bamford playing ahead of Michail Antonio for England? Why couldn't Michail Antonio get a game for England? Is he not qualified for England?
No, he's English, but he's only just come back from a long injury. Like the first game of the season was I actually don't think he played in the first game of the season for West Ham. He's just come back from a long injury layoff, and I just don't think they.
Okay, but in the last, he scored something like he's the top scorer in the Premier League and can't stop scoring. I mean, I would have thought that he'd definitely be in there. He has to be in consideration, surely, for the next squad.
Yeah.
I think he just chooses Bamford because he thinks he's a little bit like Harry Kane light. So doesn't have to change the way that he has to do things.
Yeah, I mean, Bamford's earned his place.
Yeah, he's played well, but I mean, just early season form, you'd think Antonio has to be, surely. Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, Everton top the Premier League table with 10 points each going into the weekend's fifth round. Liverpool face Patrick Vieira's Crystal Palace. Now, that's going to be a very tricky match because Crystal Palace have been showing some great form with their former Celtic striker, Edouard, coming off the bench and scoring 2 goals over the weekend. Very tricky game, that one. Man City face Southampton before next week's visit to fellow leaders Chelsea. That should be a doozy. While Man United face a tricky visit to the capital to play West Ham. I'm looking forward to see how Cristiano Ronaldo goes in London, facing the Happy Hammers. I'm sure they'll give him some abuse at that stadium. Some good games in the Premier League this weekend, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be glued to the TV set, and of course, we both predicted that Crystal Palace will go down this year.
I know. So, it's a bit like our tips in the NFL, mate. Both the teams we said were going to win it both lost last week. So
yeah, exactly. So
we're not picking them too well at the moment, but yeah, Crystal Palace, mate. It's a long season. It's a long season. They could still fall flat on their ass.
Yep, plenty of sides before have got off to good starts, and then
absolutely
got into the dog days of winter.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Manchester City Stadium has been living up to its social media nickname of the Empty Head in recent weeks. And despite crowds flocking to every other ground in Europe, the Premier League champions' home crowds have been notable for large empty spaces of unfilled seats. And yesterday's game against Leipzig, only 38,000 of a 55,000 capacity came into the stadium. And manager Pep Guardiola has had to ask fans to come in their numbers this week. That's crazy, isn't it? When you look at Anfield,
are they sick of winning?
Miles down the road.
Yeah, you can't get a ticket for love nor money, even if you know someone that works at the stadium. You still got to wait 5 years to get on the waiting list. And in Manchester, they have to plead with people to go and see their world class winning side. It just shows you who have the real passion for football in England, and it's certainly not the fans of Manchester City.
No, absolutely. And I noticed that a couple of fan groups have come back at Guardiola saying, you just stick to coaching.
Really?
Like, well, why don't you guys start turning up?
Why don't you guys stick to fanning and start turning up? Exactly.
It reminds me of the days of when Auckland rugby was great.
Yeah.
And, they used to play in front of, there'd be 3 seasons in a row unbeaten.
Yep.
And you'd still only get 15,000 turning up to watch.
Absolutely. And then the people that were turning up half of them weren't watching anyway. The ladies were doing their knitting.
Yeah.
The guys that were chanting were like, Auckland.
Yes, quite right.
Yeah.
It's been happening for a while, actually, with, fans just don't seem to turn up to Champions League games. And one of the comments, I'm just trying to find it again now. One of the fan groups said, with 8 o'clock games in Manchester, it's hard for people to get to, with families and kids. And it's like, really?
Is that really what you... Come on. I mean, I'd love to go to a Champions League night at Anfield. I mean, that'd be a night that you'd hold with you for. I mean, I went to a day game at Anfield. I mean, a lunchtime-ish kickoff against Arsenal years ago, and I'll hold that memory with me till I die. You know, I mean, going to a Champions League game would be even better. I mean, nighttime game. I mean, but yeah, the Manchester City, they're a special sort of fan, mate. They're a special sort of fan.
Here we go. I found it. And it's been likened to when Roy Keane had to go at the Prawn Sandwich Brigade.
That's right.
United a few years ago, and City fans have been singing about it ever since. Explaining the empty seats, the leader of the fan group said it's not a reflection on Pep or the team. We're scoring goals for fun and playing some of the best football, but there's not a bottomless pit of money.
Really?
Yeah.
Could have fooled me. Could have 100 million for Grealish and 150 million. You nearly spent £250 million on two players.
Yeah,
we don't have a bottomless pit of money.
Quite right.
Not all's rosy in the blue camp either, mate. New signing Jack Grealish and forward Riyad Mahrez both facing the wrath of their boss after not fulfilling their defensive duties. 6-3 was the final score against Leipzig yesterday. Did you watch any of that?
I saw the highlights, and I certainly noticed on at least two of Leipzig's goals as Leipzig hurtled themselves forward in counter-attacks. I did notice Grealish and Mahrez both just jogging back over halfway, just sort of watching the play develop 40 yards further down the park, not sort of bothering too much, but get the ball anywhere near them, and they're certainly active.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. You can have all the attacking flair you want, can't you? I mean, God, Manchester City, you got plenty of it. But if that ever happened for Liverpool, I mean, you look at someone like Jota, Mane, even Salah, they get back and help defend. And if they don't, you see Klopp on the sideline, and it doesn't matter whether they're getting a cuddle, whether they've been cuddled before the game, they're getting cuddles afterwards. He will give it to them, man. If they don't go back, and they work bloody hard. So
it was actually a perfect example in the Liverpool game. I noticed the commentator even pointed it out. Trent Alexander-Arnold had ended up in the centre forward position, and Milan had countered quickly. And who was at right fullback? Mohamed Salah.
That's right. Yeah, that's your job. I mean, It's not all about with the ball. I mean, when the opposition's got the ball, I mean, that's the way Klopp plays too. I mean, when the opposition's got the ball, get the ball. When you've got the, and so getting the ball, it's part about the fin. And you look at the DNA of Liverpool as a football club as well. It goes back, I mean, from when we were kids, Ian Rush. It was all about pressing from the front, man, that front guy. And Roberto Firmino does perhaps the best job of that of any other centre forward in the world. And that's why he gets so much criticism for not scoring enough goals, not doing this, not doing that. But he is the best presser of the ball from the front in world football. So, man, you can have all that attacking talent, but you got to defend too occasionally, don't you, mate? Or you
right.
Or you might just lose 6-3. Okay, so that's our football, is it?
We've got one more. Championship side Derby County, managed by Wayne Rooney, have been handed a 12-point penalty by the EFL for breaching financial regulations. It was either last year or the year before. I'm not quite sure.
Well, it was the year before last,
Yeah, and are currently under a transfer embargo restricting him to free transfers and loans only. And it was highlighted by the fact that with a few injuries pre-season, Rooney only had 11 available players for pre-season training in July.
Man, he's getting his managing chops pretty early, isn't he? I mean, I'll tell you what, though. Quite an interesting way to start your managerial career with this sort of thing. If he can keep them in the same division this year, it's not a bad apprenticeship. But
they only survived by the skin of their teeth last year.
I know. I can't believe they're having another 12-point penalty. I thought they'd already been deducted points.
No, they were dead scared that they were going to be penalised last year because they were right down in the mire.
Is that what it was?
And managed to get out of it in the final game of the season. And I mean, as it is now, they're sitting on 7 points from 7 games. So once that
12-point penalty
is applied, they'll be -5, 6 points away from bottom team Nottingham Forest. Oh, Gibbo can't be too happy about that.
Nottingham Forest, God, they're just looking terrible. It looks like their manager might be gone as well.
I think Chris Hughton's looking for another job soon.
Poor old Forrest, eh?
Yes, yes. So, yep, that's it with football this week.
Okay, let's move to code, mate. Let's move to Rugby Union.
With provincial rugby returning this weekend, expect to see Sam Whitelock to turn out in the red and black of Canterbury, while All Black halfback Aaron Smith will be lining up for Manawatu over the next few weeks, as he announced earlier in the week that he won't be wearing the All Black jersey again for the rest of the season, not heading to Australia, nor is he going to be heading to the UK after that, and will enjoy a small break from the international team to recharge the batteries and play in the NPC. Whitelock will join the All Blacks after the Australian portion of the tour for the end of year UK section.
There has to be good news for Aaron Smith, as far as I'm
Absolutely.
concerned, having a bit of a break. I mean, it's not real. Look, are we going to remember in World Cup year who's won these tests this year? I don't think so. We're building up to the World Cup. Vitally important that he's fit and fresh for that. So
Yeah,
really don't have a problem with him taking it. It's a little bit like a sabbatical, I guess, but he's having it at home, isn't he? And the same with Sam Whitelock. I mean, that guy's played just more rugby than just about anyone else ever.
Yeah,
so
you couldn't blame him for missing the UK portion either, could you?
he tried.
Yeah.
Oh no, mate. Both of those guys. I mean, they need their rest. So don't have a problem with any of that.
No, and Richie Mo'unga, of course, is in Australia now doing his isolation, so he'll be available, I think, for the second Springbok test. So it'll be interesting to see what Ian Foster does there with Beauden Barrett's performance last weekend.
Yeah, for that first test, you mean?
Yep.
For the first test.
He's not available for the first test.
No, Beauden Barrett is though, right? So it'll probably be a shootout between, depending on how McKenzie goes this weekend, between McKenzie and Barrett, for the first 5 position, won't it? It'll be very interesting if McKenzie has a great game at first 5, whether he sticks with Beauden or whether he puts Beauden to fullback or whether he puts Beauden on the bench. I don't know, but Beauden Barrett, what do you made of Beauden Barrett over the last few tests?
I thought he had a fantastic game against Argentina, although in saying that, we were going forward so much that he had probably an easier ride than we've seen Mo'unga have in
definitely
years.
Definitely.
I think you'll find, McKenzie will play this. I don't think it'll matter how good or bad he plays. Barrett will play the first Springbok test, and then I think Mo'unga will come in for that second Springbok test, and Barrett will probably be on the bench to cover first 5 and fullback.
Okay, interesting. We'll see how that goes.
Yes. Now the NPC, Farah Palmer Cup and Heartlands Rugby's back this weekend with revised draws. No games for the 3 Auckland-based provinces until the region is out of level 4.
We're just playing with ourselves.
Yeah. 2020 champion Tasman travel to Northland. Waikato host Canterbury. Bay of Plenty try to wrest the Ranfurly Shield from Hawke's Bay and Napier, and Wellington visit Taranaki, with all games to be played behind closed door. Farah Palmer Cup resumes, and Heartland Rugby also kicks off this weekend. So looking forward to a bit of Heartland Rugby once we move out of level 2 down here in the Wairarapa. I'll be keen to get along to Memorial Park in Masterton to watch the Bush have a game in the Heartland competition. So that will be interesting.
Can't wait, mate. Can't wait. I wish I could join. Wish I could go and see some live sport, but I'll just have to watch them on television. New Zealand Rugby's removed 6 players from NPC squads and is working with players and their provincial unions to relocate them back to Auckland after being alerted to errors in their respective applications for a COVID-19 travel exemption. Oh no, don't tell the media. No, the 6 players travelled separately from Auckland to Wellington, Hawke's Bay, Manawatu, Bay of Plenty and Northland to join the NPC squads over the past 6 to 10 days after initially being granted a travel exemption via an online application process managed by their provincial unions. Oh my God. So even the rugby players are getting amongst it, eh?
Yep, and it was good to see Mark Robinson, the CEO of New Zealand Rugby, on the TV last night saying, whoops.
What's he saying whoops for? He's got a few things to say whoops for.
Exactly. Maybe it was just a general whoops. But more balls ups by the administrators in both the provinces and New Zealand Rugby. New Zealand Rugby weren't involved in this thing.
Oh, really? Maybe they should have been.
Perhaps. That would have been a really good idea. But no, the provinces decided they could do it themselves. Just another cock up for New Zealand Rugby.
Do they get anything right, man? It just seems just every week we're reporting on
not
something else. It's just ridiculous. Okay, mate, we picked our All-Pro back line last week, and the week before our forward team. If you want to see those teams, please go back and check our previous podcasts. But what we didn't do was pick a coaching team. Yes. We need a 3-man coaching panel for this All-Pro team. So I've named a few nominations for you, mate, and we'll talk through them. Now, what I've done, I've picked the coaches that I like, basically. You can add some more to this. I mean, John Mitchell's nowhere near it. I think that's enough said. All Black.
He's off on a journey.
Yes, we're on a journey. That's a very good question.
Yes, well, it's a journey.
Absolutely. I thought it was about the bloody destination. The World Cup winners. I don't cares about the bloody journey. Just hold the cup up afterwards and don't play Christian Cullen at centre. Anyway, okay. Laurie Mains is our first nomination. Of course, he was coach of the All Blacks during the 2005 World Cup. Earl Curtin, who was an offsider, who was a very innovative thinker. I used to like Earl Curtin. He used to stand behind the posts down at Athletic Park with his scarf.
He always liked players with the gas.
He did. He's got gas.
He's got gas.
He did say that. Earl Curtin, the dentist, of course, Earl Curtin.
Yep.
And of course, Laurie Mains. You got any comments on Laurie Mains, old Lozza?
Oh, Lozza, he was a good coach, actually. A couple of interesting stories about Laurie Mains was when Andrew Mertens first joined the All Black team as a young 21 or 22-year-old coming out of Christchurch. Had played a few games for Canterbury and made a name for himself and was named in his first All Black side in the build-up to the 1995 Rugby World Cup. And apparently the coaches and the captain of the team at the time were all just standing around having a conversation about what they were going to do with training. And this is in his Mert's very first All Black training session.
Yeah.
Runs up to the group, claps his hands, says, "Come on, boys, let's get going, eh?" And then runs off. Apparently Laurie Mains, who normally has a pretty sort of concrete granite-like face.
He was stony-faced.
Sort of went even worse. And his comment was something along the lines of, "Who the bloody hell is that?"
Got to know him fairly well after that, though.
Quite right.
Laurie Mains. He used to get a lot of grief back in the day, but I didn't think he was a bad coach. And of course, he had the balls enough to pick Jonah after so many people said, "No way, you should be on the team. His defense is terrible." So Laurie Mains and Earl Curtin. John Hart, of course, the very successful Auckland coach who then coached with Grizz Wiley as well, the All Blacks, and took them to that World Cup, that very ill-fated World Cup, 99.
Co-coaches John Hart and Grizz Wiley.
How the hell? I mean, I don't even think that the current Rugby Union would make that decision, would you? As coaching duo. I don't even think they would be stupid enough to put them as a coaching duo. John Hart and Grizz Wiley. They were about as chalk and cheese as you can get, eh?
Yeah.
But John Hart, very innovative thinker as well, forward thinking, perhaps one of the first truly professional coaches. Wayne Smith, of course, very innovative thinker, especially with the backs, and he had an ill-fated run as head coach of the All Blacks, but then did a lot as assistant coach and was very, very highly thought of amongst the other coaches, wasn't he? Robbie Deans, who never coached, did he coach the All Blacks? Yeah, he was in the coaching panel, but he never coached the All Blacks as head coach.
He was an All Blacks manager, I think. At some
stage.
He might have been I think he was an assistant coach too.
I think he was. John Mitchell.
Some guy who's now involved in another country setup.
Yeah, but Robbie Deans, I don't think he was a bad coach. He definitely did very well with Canterbury. Graham Henry, of course, our World Cup winning coach in 2011, and of course Steve Hansen, who the only two-time winner of the World Cup for the All Blacks. So, what do you think, mate? Who's going to be our head coach to start with from that list of esteemed company?
I think I'd probably have to go with Sir Ted.
I think so too. Yep. I think so. I think he's the doyen. I think he's the sort of he was the quintessential guy that if he didn't have the skills, he'd get someone else in, wasn't he?
Yeah. Well, just forget the first Rugby World Cup that he was in charge of.
Oh, but see, he learned from his lessons, though.
He did.
He did have the opportunity to learn from his lessons. I must say, he was given the opportunity, but he did learn from them, and he improved. And Yeah, so I think Ted's our head coach.
Yep, quite right.
So who you got as assistants?
I'm plugging for Smithy and Shag. Smith and
Wayne
Hanson.
Smith, I think Wayne Smith definitely. Steve Hansen, maybe. I was sort of thinking maybe we could have gone with a Earl Curtin or a John Hart just for
Ernie Curtin.
but maybe because it's just for a little bit of innovation, a little bit of
let's go for Ernie Curtin.
I think so. Just from a previous generation. So
Yeah,
so we've got Graham Henry, we've got Wayne Smith, and we've got Earl Curtin. You happy with that?
That's a hell of a coaching trio.
That's pretty good. Beautiful.
Right, now we've named that. It's time to head across to the rugby league desk.
Yeah, just before we do, next week we'll do our we'll do our amateur and we'll do our backs or forwards. We'll start with the forwards.
Start with the forwards next week.
Start with the forwards. Yes. So rugby league time, Macca.
Yes. I'll just start by saying my advice. I hope nobody followed my betting advice last week, because the Manly Sea Eagles, along with Tommy Trebojevic, had an absolute shocker.
He had a stinker, mate, but I wouldn't blame it all on him. The Storm are just relentless, man. They are just a bloody good rugby league side. The big story for the first week of the finals, though, was the defeat of the Penrith Panthers, who set the standard. Who set the standard during the regular season, but they could only score 10 points against the Gutsy Bunnies. And of course, that result threw a massive spanner into the semi-finals draw, because now it puts the Panthers in the same bracket as the Storm, meaning there cannot be a repeat of last year's grand final, Storm Panthers. So let's go back through those games. On Friday, the Storm 40 beat the Sea Eagles 12. The Storm through the preliminary final. The Sea Eagles are through to the semi-final 1. The Storm strangled the life. This is what I wrote. Strangled the life out of the Sea Eagles, and Tommy Turbo only had 19 touches of the ball as opposed to his normal 40-plus touches that he does during a game. They just kicked away from him all day, mate, and the forwards just dominated. So I don't blame Tommy Turbo at all, mate. The Storm are just such a good side, and Ryan Pappenhausen was just absolutely superb for the Storm from the back, and Cameron Munster as well. On Saturday, the Roosters 25 beat the Titans 24, the closest game of the round. The Roosters through the semi-final 1. The Titans were eliminated. They gave as good as they got, though. Rookie Rooster halfback Sam Walker kicked the match-winning field goal in the 78th minute to win a close one for the Roosters. Then on Saturday, late Saturday night, the Panthers 10 lost to the Rabbitohs 16. The upset of the semi-finals, the Rabbits through the preliminary final, ranked the Panthers through to semi-final 2. The Rabbits without Latrell pulled off the upset of the final series so far, with a performance built on mistake-free footy and brutal defence. They just played so well. They elevated. I was just waiting for the Panthers to come back, and they just didn't. It was
great to see Wayne Bennett looking just so excited in his after-match interview when asked what he thought of the Rabbitohs' performance. He just exuded emotion and just said, "It was pretty good, wasn't it?"
Played okay. He makes Steve Hansen seem like the most effusive in his praise. He's just so deadpan, and between him and Cleary as well. Yeah. And then they were both having a pop at each other, which I thought was quite good as well. Which is Cleary. They both got the same. Same.
Yeah,
just so deadpan. He just looks like he's just so depressed. But
and then you see him on the dressing room cameras, high five.
Oh yeah, doing the thing,
dancing around with his team. It's
I know. I would love to actually get it.
Now 72, 73.
Oh, he's in his 70s, mate. Still doing it. Just incredible drive for the game, eh? I mean, he's an incredible rugby league coach, mate.
Oh, he is.
I mean, you know, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, the Panthers played the Rabbits, and I said I reckon the Rabbits will get up against the Panthers. They lost that game, but Wayne Bennett knew what he was doing. He was probably preparing for that game last week during that game. So, mate, there's nothing the man can't do. And then on Sunday, the Eels 28 beat the Knights 20. The Eels through the semi-final 2. The Knights were eliminated. Mitchell Moses ran the show and led the Eels to a hard-fought win against the Gutsy Knights. Kalen Pogger played well for the Knights, but he couldn't do it. And the Eels continue their search for the first title in over 35 years to make Nathan Highmarsh very, very happy, finally. But that's not going to happen. The Eels won't win. So we got 2 semi-finals this weekend, mate. Semi-final 1 tonight, 9:50 p.m. sold out at BB Print Stadium, Macca.
Oh,
It's crazy, eh? Both of them have played. This is great value for the people in Townsville. They're getting 2 semi-finals.
absolutely.
Seagulls $1.28, Roosters $3.75. Winner to face the Bunnies in preliminary final 1, and then semi-final 2. That's tomorrow night, 7:50 p.m. It's also sold out at BB Print Stadium in Mackay. BB Print. Who the hell are BB Print? Panthers take on the Eels. Winner to face the Storm in the preliminary final 2. And just before we finish our wrap up, the Warriors had their awards dinner. Tohu Harris took out the Simon Mannering Medal as Player of the Year. Well deserved for him as well. Reece Walsh picked up the award for Rookie of the Year. And interesting, actually, to compare the figures between Reece Walsh this year and the year that Roger Tuivasa-Sheck won the Dally M, just to show you what sort of season that Reece Walsh has had. So the games played, Reece Walsh 16 games to Roger's 23. This is the year that Roger won the Dally M. Reece Walsh scored 9 tries. Roger only scored 3 that year. He's got 11 try assists to Roger's 10, 14 line breaks to Roger's 13, and 13 line break assists to Roger's 10. He beats him in every single category, and he played 8 less games. So what a season Reece Walsh has had.
Pretty impressive for the young fella.
We have to take the positives where we can as Warriors fans, mate. So congratulations to Reece Walsh and Tohu Harris. Looking forward to the league tonight, though, mate. And I'll have a good bet for you on the league during our bet pick near the end of the podcast.
Look forward to hearing that. Time to move on to a bit of cricket. It's happy trails to Sri Lanka pace bowler Lasith, the slinger Malinga, who was called stumps on his cricket career after being left out of the Sri Lanka team for the upcoming T20 World Cup in the United Arab Emirates. Malinga burst onto the scene with his low slinging action in 2004, and over the last 17 years has amassed 101 Test wickets, 338 ODI wickets, and a current world record 107 T20 international wickets. It's a hell of a career for the slinger.
It is, mate. I didn't even know he was still playing, to be fair.
Well, yeah, he was hoping to be selected for this T20 World Cup. He hasn't actually played for Sri Lanka for about 14 months.
Has he just been playing T20 around the globe, doing all those things? So that's the reason I didn't know he was still playing. I don't really watch a lot of the T20 stuff, but
likewise,
yeah, he was a very, very unusual bowler, wasn't he? I mean, we thought that Murali, when we first saw him chucking it, was strange, but Malinga, when the delivery's coming from here, out of frame, just so strange. When I first saw it, I thought that cannot be legal. You know, why hasn't someone else tried this? And then they said, no, you don't have to. Doesn't have to be above there. It's just so long as it's above there. So good on him, man. Innovative.
The funny thing with Malinga was when you watched him do his warm-ups, the arm would come through at the normal position.
Exactly. So he knew what he was doing, you know, and he was doing it for a reason, you know, often coming outside the sight screen. You know? He was a great bowler, mate. Very, very good bowler, and exactly what Sri Lanka needed, because they've never really had a pace attack, and after Chaminda Vas retired, they were kind of light on that area, and he definitely stepped up to the plate. Great player, Malinga the Slinger.
Yes, another retirement of sorts is former West Indian fast bowler Michael Whispering Death Holding.
Michael Holding.
I'm cool, man. Who at 66 is calling time in his commentary career, which began once he stopped playing in 1987 after taking an impressive 249 wickets at 23.68 in just 60 tests. His laconic commentary style will be missed around cricket grounds and will be remembered for a long time for his emotional plea to the cricket world to rid the sport and society of racism after the worldwide protests following the police killing of George Floyd in Minnesota. Holding was also forthright in some of his opinions, publicly stating he would never commentate on T20 games because it wasn't proper cricket.
He's a cool man. He knows what proper cricket was. And I loved Michael Holding. I loved him as a bowler. Scary bowler. Never made any. The reason he was called Whispering Death, because he had a massively long run up, but it just seemed like an effortless approach to the wicket. He's just almost shuffling, wasn't he, Macca? But just graceful as all hell. And they could, the umpire actually gave him that, didn't he? Whispering Death.
Yeah, because the umpire would never hear him coming.
Never hear him coming. It was just Next thing he's past you.
Yeah.
Great player, and then and a fantastic commentator. I thought he was never biased, you know.
Yeah.
When the West Indies play, it didn't matter who was playing. He just always gave his opinion and didn't seem to care about who was winning or, you know, yeah. Other than his accent, you'd never know he was from the West Indies, and he was just always perceptive. Always seemed to give and also retiring. He could have gone on for another 10 years and probably lost it a little bit. And but he's retiring at the top of his game. So, you know, salute you, Mr. Michael Holding.
That speech before that test.
So good, eh?
After the George Floyd killing, he had tears running down his cheeks.
I know.
And I think a lot of people watching it would have had tears running down their cheeks too. It's just some of those things you heard coming out of his mouth, were the last thing you ever expected coming out of the mouth of Michael Holding.
Absolutely, because he's one of those sort of guys, isn't he, that never wants to ruffle anyone's feathers. He's always, you know, he's always calm and straight.
Yeah.
That was one of the few times he spoke with real emotion, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Reinforcements have arrived in Pakistan to join the rest of the group from Bangladesh for the T20s and ODIs in the country. New Zealand's first visit to Pakistan in 18 years. Martin Guptill, Mark Chapman, Daryl Mitchell, Todd Astle and Ish Sodhi arrived in Lahore and were escorted to their 5 days isolation hotel by armoured vehicles, a dozen or so police vehicles and armed soldiers, with the first ODI tonight in the city.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to Pakistan.
You feel safe, boys?
Welcome to Pakistan, the former home of Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh. The New Zealand squad for the T20 World Cup has been announced as well. I'm looking at the squad and I can't see one player. I may be wrong. I can't see one player who played against Bangladesh. How's that?
So not even Latham?
No Latham.
Oh,
Not even Latham. So you know, does that just show you what an absolute Mickey Mouse thing that Bangladesh tour was?
Oh, absolutely.
We've played 11 players. Well, they played a touring team, so there were other guys over there as well. They had a touring team of about 16 players. None of them have made the T20. You would have thought if they were prepared, if this was the tour to prepare for our T20 World Cup, surely the players that were going to be playing in the T20 World Cup, here's the team. See if you can name any doubles, because I can't see any. Kane Williamson, he wasn't there. Todd Astle wasn't there. Trent Bolt wasn't there. Mark Chapman wasn't there. Devon Conway wasn't there. Lockie Ferguson wasn't there. Martin Guptill wasn't there. Kyle Jamieson, Daryl Mitchell, Jimmy Neesham, Glenn Phillips, Mitchell Santner, Tim Seifert, Ish Sodhi, Tim Southey, and Adam Milne. None of those guys were there. Adam Milne.
Yeah.
He's a travelling reserve. After the way that they played in Bangladesh, there was a couple of young guys, fast bowlers. One guy pushed 150 Ks. I would have thought it would be better to maybe play one of those younger guys who's actually played a little bit of cricket in the last month. I just don't understand this T20 stuff, man.
No, I don't.
I just don't get it. I mean, anyway.
I'm with Michael Holding on that. It's not proper cricket.
It's not proper cricket, but I mean, it doesn't seem like our organisation is treating it as proper cricket either. I mean, we picked that's a pretty good T20 side, but I just don't understand how we're leading up. We're doing a tour. This is preparation for the T20. We have to play this T20 tour to lead up to the T20 World Cup, and we're not going to pick any of the players that are going to be playing in the T20 World Cup.
No.
Well, it's just pointless.
Just take these young guys to Bangladesh, and they can have a bit of fun.
Yeah,
play a bit of cricket, and
and then you can go on home, and then we'll get the real team in to play the World Cup. Yeah,
that's the one.
Yeah. Okay, mate. Enough of the cricket. Should we go to the other bat and ball sport, shall we, mate? The baseball's been going big and proud in the United States as they head towards the playoffs, mate. It's all going on. The Yankees are down, then they're up, then they're down, then they're up. You're crying one day, you're happy the next. Oh, what is going on, man? Who's going to get this wild card spot?
Well, who knows? I don't think they're going to know until everybody's played 162 games. It's absolutely crazy. Yeah, they as you say, the Yankees have been so streaky this year. It's not funny. They'll go on a 13 games in a row winning streak, and then the next 13 games they'll only win 2 of them. So at the moment they're playing the Baltimore Orioles as we speak. The 2 close wins over the last couple of days, but it's just crazy what's going on at the moment. Of course, where the standings are all coming into play now. We have our first 2 playoff teams.
Yes.
San Francisco Giants and the Los Angeles Dodgers have both qualified for the playoffs.
Who would have bet on that at the beginning of the season that the San Francisco Giants will be the first team to qualify for the playoff? You could have made some good money. That would have been like Leicester winning the Premier League, mate. Almost.
Yeah, exactly. And I read an interesting article that they've actually put it down to they've brought in. I know this seems strange, but brought in more coaches into the dugout than most other teams have to specialise in different areas. I mean, we've heard about Liverpool having a throw-in coach, and the Giants have just done it through really good coaching. I mean, you'd go through some of their players, and they're what you would class as journeymen, really. But guys like Brandon Belt, Brandon Crawford are just having outstanding seasons and are really just, having one out of the box.
Yeah.
But so some it's differing sort of 16, 17, 18 games to go. American League East, I think Tampa have got the division tied up there, but you look at the wild card going into today's games, the Yankees, the Blue Jays and the Red Sox all have exactly the same record.
Crazy.
So that one's going down to the wire.
So what if 3 teams have the same record? What do they do then?
2 of the teams, I know it's happened. It has.
Is it who's beaten who, or do they take it back to that?
Yeah, it does come down to who's beaten who most. So, and it would come down to the 2. If it finished as it does, and let's say, for example, the Yankees had beaten the Blue Jays and Boston more than Boston had beaten them. So there'd be a game 163. Basically between Toronto and Boston to see who would go into the wild card game.
One game.
Yeah. So
and would the whole bullpen be available? Just make everyone available? And
no, you have to use your existing regular season roster. But the crazy thing is, when you get into the wild card, you basically name one starter and have the rest of the 12 people in the
all the starters are relievers. Wow. So when will we know, Macca? When does the wild card? When does it all wrap up?
Well, the end of the season, end of the regular season. So we're not going to know who's going to win the American League wild card. I'm picking till about the 2nd of October.
Okay.
2nd or 3rd of October.
So we could be talking about this for the next couple of weeks still.
We certainly will be. Yeah. Let's just have a quick look here. I think the Yankees' last game in the regular season is the 4th of October. So we may not even know till the 4th of October.
All right.
As to who that wild card is going to be. But having a quick look at the standings, as I've said, Tampa Bay have run away with the East Division. White Sox, though, they will qualify for the playoffs within the next 4 to 5 days. They're 11 games ahead of Cleveland. Houston have got a 6.5 game lead over Oakland, and Seattle are just 1 game further back. In the National League, the wild card is, let's have a look. The Dodgers are so far ahead in the wild card, so it's going to be either the Dodgers or the Giants will have home advantage in the wild card. Again, it's another close battle to see who's going to get the second wild card spot, because St. Louis Cardinals have come from absolutely nowhere. And they're in prime position, game ahead of San Diego and Cincinnati, who were in that spot just a week ago. So
a lot of streaky results, A lot of teams winning in a row and losing, and it's just
absolutely. In the division races, Atlanta 3.5 games ahead of the Phillies. Milwaukee, they've got it sewn up. They're 12.5 games ahead of St. Louis, and as I mentioned, the West, that's pretty even. There's only 1.5 games between the Giants and the Dodgers. So, a lot of these races are going to go right down to the wire. We've had a couple of game 163s over the last few years, so it could just about happen again.
Awesome. And what about the Kiwis? How are they going?
Minor league seasons are coming to an end now. Kiwi pitcher Kyle Glagoski has had a successful return to the pitching mound, throwing in 4 games since his return from a right elbow strain. He's thrown 5 innings in his comeback for the Phillies FCL rookie side, and he will continue to rehab in Florida for the foreseeable future. Ben Thompson's season's almost over too, having thrown 50.2 innings in 30 games for the low A Augusta Green Jackets. He's got a 3-1 win-loss record and 61 strikeouts. And Elliot Johnson, we're yet to see him perform on the mound so far.
All right. Should we go to other stuff? What else is happening in this world of sports, or you got some more baseball stuff?
No. Week 1 of the NFL's in the books with good wins. The Rams, Raiders, Eagles, and Saints. While the 49ers held off a late Lions charge. Geez, that was nerve-wracking.
Talk about trying to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. I sort of thought, they got this in the bag, and walked away from the TV and came back and they were like 8 points behind. I was like, what the hell's going on here?
Yep.
They could have lost that at the end, but
and now the Niners have lost Raheem Mostert, their running back, for the rest of the season. He damaged knee ligaments in that game.
Yeah.
49ers held off a late Lions charge. Last year's champion, the Tom Brady-led Buccaneers.
That was a good game.
Held off a strong challenge from Dak Prescott's Cowboys in last Thursday's opening game. That was a cracker to watch, wasn't it?
Great game to start the season. Just fantastic back and forth game. And Dak Prescott, geez, he looks bloody good. Looks up for the season, doesn't he? You could have won the game, but Brady, once again, under 2 minutes, comes on and does what he does. That was awesome. I also watched the Ravens play the Raiders. That was
another good game.
Really good game. And how was that stadium? Woo!
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the big flame at the end of it. It's just phenomenal looking place. And some of the fans look like they were enjoying themselves too in Las Vegas.
The two new stadiums, the Allegiant Stadium and that you just talked about, the Raiders' new stadium, and the Rams and Chargers' new stadium, SoFi Stadium in Inglewood.
Incredible.
That is unbelievable, that stadium. And it's right in the flight path from LA International Airport.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So you actually see it if you're landing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was $2.5 billion.
Something like that. Yeah, well, some big games this weekend. The Niners visit the Eagles. The Giants hosting the Washington football team. You mentioned some of the likely names last week. We won't go into those again.
The WTF, we'll call them.
Yep. Yeah. And the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Baltimore Ravens, who will be hurting after losing that game against the Rams earlier in the week. So some big games coming up in week 2.
Roll on the American football. Oh, it's great, mate. I love having the American football back. It's
quite right. Novak Djokovic misses out on the calendar slam.
So sad.
So sad. The US Open to Daniel Medvedev. He would have been the first player to do it since Rod Laver in 1969.
And he didn't just lose, he got smashed too.
He did. Straight sets.
That Medvedev is a handy player, mate. He could be the guy, could be the guy to rival those guys. I was pleased to see him finally get across the line. But that Djokovic is going to come back. I mean, he might not win a slam. And Rocket Rod Laver's probably quietly happy about that, but he'll be back. He'll win the most Grand Slams of all, obviously.
I don't know if you noticed after the game, the elderly gentleman handing out the trophy to Medvedev was one Stan Smith.
Yes.
You remember Stan Smith? Well, you wouldn't remember seeing him play because he played in the 60s along with Rod Laver, but he looked so good he must be in his 80s.
Didn't he?
He would look dapper in his lovely blue suit and his white tennis shoes. Of course, I'm sure they would have been Stan Smith tennis shoes. It was a great brand in the late 60s and early 70s. Absolutely. If you had a pair of Stan Smith tennis shoes, you were the big wig.
Absolutely. No, that was great to see. Once again, another example of the way that the Americans hold their past sporting greats up more than we do.
Oh, yes.
Shout outs to new friends of the show on Facebook, Kane Todd, Romeo Bilao, and Warren Phelan. Welcome aboard, guys. Welcome aboard as friends of the show. Remember, like, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff. Make sure you comment, facebook.com/Hottier Sports Podcast. And I've got the bet of the week, haven't I? The bet of the week.
I'm looking forward to this one.
Now, the bet of the week, I'm looking for value. Somewhere where you can double, triple, or even more with your money. Ooh. And tonight is the game. I'm going to go on the Manly Seagulls versus the Sydney Roosters. And I can't see the Seagulls getting up. I think the Roosters are going to cause an upset tonight, mate. I think they'll get up. It's Tom Trbojevic versus Tedesco, the two best, perhaps the best two fullbacks in the game, other than Roger Tuivasa. Well, he's not in our game anymore, so we'll forgive them that. I think if you go head-to-head, Sydney Roosters, $3.50 at the TAB. I think that's some great value at the TAB. If you want a little bit more value, you could go $5 on the 12 and under. Sydney Roosters, 12 and under, $5. I think that's great value.
Get on great value.
There you go.
It's better value than Pack and Save.
Yeah, and you won't get stabbed.
No, that's Countdown.
Oh, sorry. It's dangerous work going to supermarkets is all I'll tell you.
Anyway, good week, bad week. Good week. English tennis player Emma Raducanu becomes a new star overnight after winning the US Open title last weekend over another rising star, Canadian Leylah Fernandez.
Dude,
yeah, just what a player.
I mean, what a story. Both of these two, incredible story. Neither of them ranked. Her going through 3 qualifying rounds, in winning all those things, and never dropping a set, never been done. She's not ranked. That's never been done. Yeah. It's just incredible. I mean, it used to always be the men's tennis that had the upsets, and now, I mean, those two. Who would? I mean, if you had a bet with a Las Vegas booking agency for those two to be in that final, they probably would have given you any money to get that. So absolutely phenomenal. And it wasn't like it was lucky, mate. She beat the first, the third, and the fifth seeds as well. Absolutely incredible effort, phenomenal effort from that lady. And a British woman as well. The Brits doing well in tennis.
Woman. Yeah,
incredible.
I would have thought.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that.
What is that?
I've just put my money where your mouth is.
Oh, you put some money on it. Get in. How much?
Can't quite see it.
How much?
I put $10 on Sydney Roosters 1-12.
Good work, mate. Good work. And it'll give you a reason to stay up late tonight, mate.
Yeah, I'll look at the score in the morning.
So good news. Good news for her.
That's a good week. Bad week. Poor old Harvey Elliott.
Oh, man.
The Liverpool midfielder dislocated his ankle in Sunday's game against Leeds United after making such a bright start to the new season, and will now be unlikely to return until the new year. Just a shocking injury, and it looked horrible.
It did. It did. They didn't show the replays, did they? Of course, I rewound it to have a look. It was awful. It was from behind. I don't know whether it was a red card. It was kind of went wrong. I suppose after he got sent, after we lose a player, they're going to lose a player. That's another debate. But yeah, such a sad thing to see a kid that young, that talented. He's in the first team. He's played 2 or 3 games in a row, just making his way, just looking like he's to the manor born, something like that to go wrong. The good thing is that he was waving to the crowd, and then he was tweeting out, and then he even gave his jersey to one of the kids on the way out,
At the hospital.
It is sort of, at the hospital, it is kind of the new generation, They're just braver. They just don't seem to worry about things like we did back when we were young. I think the kid's obviously got the right attitude. He's got the whole of the Liverpool team and the supporter base behind him. He'll be back better than ever, but just an awful thing. I hate seeing that, when there's a leg going the wrong way, flopping all over the place. Awful. Yeah. Get well soon, Harvey.
Yes, quite right. The whole of the Liverpool supporter base is right behind you, young fella.
Absolutely.
And, so that's it for another week of sporting action.
Beautiful.
Time for us to sign off, and Aaron can go and enjoy his lockdown birthday.
Time to start day drinking. Okay.
All right. Of
I'm
course.
gonna have my first drink, so by the time the league starts and you call me, I'll be completely incoherent.
Quite right.
Thanks
So,
very much.
make sure you give us a like on YouTube, subscribe to the channel,
Yeah,
get on
comment.
Spotify, place it in your bookmarks, give us a like and a comment on Facebook. We love seeing all your comments on Facebook and YouTube. And we'll be back next week with another edition of the Hot Air Sports Podcast. So it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from him. We'll see you next time.